Good afternoon. I am excited to announce my seventh and very likely my last book. It's called The AI Human Edge, Winning with Intelligence Technologies on the Field, which means the sporting field, and beyond. Notice one thing. This book is thick. It's over 500 pages. And I thought, if this is going to be my last book, then it's going to be like a Tom Clancy book. It's going to be very meaty. It's going to have a lot of deep content. And like a Tom Clancy book, at the end, the good guys are going to win. In this case, the good guys are the humans this book is focused on how do we help humans amplify their professional and domain expertise while unleashing their own natural creativity. So this book is a very deep book, and it's not a light reading. I wouldn't take it to the beach. Each of the 13 chapters in here are standalone, but they all build on each other, and they provide a deep level of content. So again, this at 500 pages, by far twice the size of my biggest book ever, but I wanted this book, again, to be meaningful and impactful, not a light read. Now, the impetus for this book all comes from a game I played when I was like 11 and 12 years old called Stratomatic Baseball. And the thing about Stratomatic Baseball that really caught my attention was that I had playing cards like this one for Roger Clemens that detailed his pitching in a certain situation, a detailed propensity model of scores of what they're likely to do in what situation. I had this for like Barry Bonds and Cal Ripken and Greg Maddux. You had it for both your team as well as the other team. You had tremendous insights into their behavioral performance and behavioral propensities. And that concept is carried with me throughout all my engagements, my work at Yahoo, my work I've done at Hitachi and at EMC and at Dell, is this idea that we can build very detailed propensity models that capture the predicted behavioral and performance propensities of all of our professionals and domain experts. Now, I started the book off focused very much on professional sports and college sports athletes, and because these are entities would have high value in the ability to leverage AI to help them become more effective and help organizations be more effective around how they're using them, platooning them, we're giving them breaks, recruiting, drafting, training, development, rest, all the recovery, all the things that are critical can all be improved by building these very individual models in each and every one of these athletes. But what Renee Lottie, my reviewer and my cohort in writing this book, raised to me was that this capability for professional athletes, it isn't just for them. Every professional can benefit from this, whether it's a nurse or a doctor, an engineer, a technician, a detective, right? An actor. And it benefits every stakeholder we serve, a customer, a guest, a student, a patient. And so these concepts, this book exploded because it went well beyond just focused on how do we help professional and collegiate athletes perform better, get more out of their potential, but how do we help nurses and doctors and designers and architects and everybody else, all the other domain experts that are across the world, all the other humans also not only reach their full potential from their amplifying their expertise, but how do we also use AI to help fuel and unleash that creativity? So I'm going to kind of walk through the book real briefly here. The first important chapter is a chapter about entity propensity models. That's these things here, but at a level of granularity and a level of detail like we've never seen before. As one Major League Baseball executive said to me after explaining the concept, he says, well, this is like Moneyball on steroids. Yes, it is. It's at a level of granularity and actionability that we can build these very detailed profiles on our athletes, professional, college, but also, again, all other domain experts. The next chapter dives into basically small language models, what I call entity language models, very domain-specific language models, and how do we leverage the power of generative AI and agentic AI and reinforcement learning to provide the context that supports the entity propensity models that we're building on each entity that basically is leveraging predictive analytics and causal AI to help build these predictive and quantifiable behavioral performance propensities. The third chapter get it together here. It talks about the overall architecture. So if we lay out the foundation that we need entity propensity models to provide details on each and every one of our important entities, whether they're human or device, so chillers and compressors and motors and such. And then we want to leverage this marvelous generative AI and agentic AI to contextualize how we leverage those entity propensity models to take very well-informed, transparent, trustworthy actions. This is the architecture that talks about this. This chapter 4, talks about the architecture, and I think the heart of this book, for me, is chapter 5, the causal lens, the causal core, actually, is what the title we cited. And I had help from both John Thompson and from Mark Stauss in writing this chapter. I'm sorry, the sun's kind of shining. Here in Iowa, we take great pride and gratitude when the sun shines. So I'm going to slide you over here a little bit so I get a little bit less sun. And this chapter is so important, and there's so much that I've learned since writing this chapter that I'm committed to every one of these chapters where it makes sense to add addendum. So in the end of January timeframe, I'll be adding an addendum called the causal spine that reflects my most recent work with people like John and Mark to really flesh this out. And by the way, I'm going to use addendums to help add to each of these chapters as more and more content comes out. Anyway, I know I'm starting to bore you. I've been talking a long time. We actually talk about now intelligence in action. How do we make it actually work? How do we create causal or conversational AI conversations? I walked through an example of a major college program who's trying to improve their basketball performance. They're one of the power conferences, and they're at the bottom of the power conference. And how do I leverage the thinking like a data science methodology? So it's full of examples and templates. But if you want a free copy of Thinking Like a Data Scientist book, send me a note and I'll send it to you. But it really summarizes the concept in this chapter. I then talk about how the importance of feedback loops. I talk about learning constructs, things like observability, instrumentation, stochastic gradient descent, and backpropagation, and all these important things around which provide an environment to continuously learn and adapt. This is one of the things that's really important about what AI does. AI is not necessarily an optimization technology. It's a technology that allows us to continuously learn and adapt. And while we want to focus, many organizations want to focus AI on how do I optimize processes through automation, I'm telling you the bigger bang is how do I empower and amplify the humans that drive those processes and create an environment where those humans continuously learn and adapt so they become more effective, they can leverage their creativity, and the process can benefit correspondingly. I'm going to pass through a couple of these things to talk about how to build an organizational that can accept this, because, by the way, if the humans don't participate in this process, they're the source of your feedback. If they're not giving you the feedback, then you're not going to be successful. And in the human component of this process, by the way, getting humans to buy in to this concept doesn't start when you deliver the analytics to them. It starts when you're defining and designing the analytics. So bring them in on day one. Leverage their domain expertise. This comes out really clear in the causal spine. We talk about structured causal models as a way to define the causal factors that drive certain outcomes, allow us to quantify cause and effect. We have a chapter here that talks about examples across a number of different industries. They call it beyond the arena. So this talks about examples in nursing and teaching, social services, and other areas where domain experts can use AI to drive more trustworthy, accurate, reliable, transparent outcomes. We talk about how this applies to customers, those that we serve, customers, guests, constituents, right? Patients, students. A bonus chapter, dun, 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 how to build your own digital assistant, your own Yoda. So there's a chapter in here about how everybody can build your own Yoda, how you can create a digital assistant that can help you not only become the best that you can become, but provides a sparring partner that allows you to test and unleash creativity. There's a chapter in here that walks through a whole bunch of different scenarios, probably my favorite chapter, where I walk through what does this mean from a doctor-patient conversation around a cancer treatment. How does this manifest itself in a conversation between a teacher and a student regarding student performance? And finally, a chapter here, an appendix written by my favorite and most powerful data scientist friend, Wei Lin, that actually goes into some technical detail. Beyond me, but it's all in his space. And so, anyway, 500 pages. Again, content, deep, thick, not an easy read. And by the way, if you buy the book and you find me and you want me to autograph it, I will autograph it only under one condition. You need to tell me what was your key takeaway from the book. If you have the book and you can tell me that, then I'll autograph it like mad. I'll give you a hug and a kiss in the process. Well, maybe just a hug, right? So again, the AI human edge. This is not about AI replacing humans. That's BS, right? This is about how do we leverage AI to make humans more powerful? How do we help them become more effective? How do we amplify their skill sets? How do we unleash that natural human curiosity? And so much like a Tom Clancy book, very detailed, lots of content, takes time to read. At the end of this book, the good guy wins. If we think the good guy are the humans. Thanks for your time. I hope you read the book, hope you enjoy it, and I hope I run into you. And don't forget, I'm going to ask you what your key takeaway is. Cheers.